The theme of this one is rebuilding from the inside out. And when I started doing these videos, the real purpose of doing the videos, I think, was how can I go about contributing in a content-driven way that'll make a difference for people who want resources, experience, stories, understanding, and that can utilize, I think, the decades of what I've learned and what I've seen and what I do in a way that kind of gives back and gives forward. Even the act of creating these on a regular basis has been a journey in itself, and it's required me to reinvent, and that's what it was. The thematic elements of this would be recovery and reinvention and resilience, and what it can teach us about our own self-mastery. So, I write down these notes at times, and I want to present, and so I thought, just that kind of maybe explaining a bit of the process about why I'm doing this or what it's for. Transformation doesn't start with strength, it starts with an act of surrender. The turning point in leadership, when I wrote this down, I said the turning point in leadership stops being about image and it starts being about integrity. And so what I meant by that is really kind of constantly reinforcing, you always hear it, like you don't need to be fearless in order to move forward. You just need to be willing. And so I was talking about like those moments in our lives, the moments that change everything. It's the moment like when you realize whatever you're dealing with, like you just can't keep going on either being the way you've been or putting up with what you're putting up with or having life be the way it is. And that's kind of one of the times when I talk about like an intervention, like intervene from Latin, come between. It's like whatever was can't be any longer. And whatever will be is going to be new. And it's like, what happens in that moment of that transformation? Maybe your own turning point came through loss. Maybe it comes through burnout. Maybe it comes through a revelatory experience of maybe there's nothing wrong with what was, but you just want, at least at the end of your life story, there to be something new. That's a lot of it. It's a lot of, there doesn't have to be anything wrong, but I'd like something else, And so something with that is, sometimes when we think of like concepts of recovery or reinvention, it's not like, doesn't necessarily require you then to bounce back. It could just be about rebuilding on the truth of who you are now. My own personal life has been nothing but constantly being willing to reevaluate and like take pulse or a stock check. And am I honoring who I am in this moment? Am I being the things that I say I'm about? And my entire life, talk to people who've known me at different stages of my existence. I think one of the beautiful things about being human is that we can reinvent, recreate, and transform. And I think when you have those experiences that you've gone through stuff, there is that gravity, that understanding, that depth that brings actual truth to the things that you say or the things that you've done or that you want to do. Talk about this, like I wrote down, self-mastery begins when you stop performing competence and you start practicing presence. There's this constant thing with purpose, like not becoming something like some place to get, but just reconnecting to what you are. There's something that's very real that I wrote when you rebuilt from nothing, like when you've lost everything. Chaos doesn't scare you anymore because you've already met yourself in that darkness and you're still here. That builds a tremendous amount of calm, of serenity, of peace. And I think people really can choose. There's often two paths people go with that. It's like things occur to them that were awful and they think that that's how it'll ever be, so they become a part of the destruction and they create destruction. And then there are those who almost want to be, there's those, the wolves would be those people, and then there's the sheepdogs who can do wolf-like behavior, but they want to protect the good, the proverbial sheep of the world, which are usually just kind people and people there's something that the truth is, you know, in life that I've seen. The turning point isn't the end of something. It's really the beginning of the real mastery. It's where your leadership and your humanity meet. You know, when they say every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end, there's this thing of the ability to begin again. You know, your turning point isn't like you're not behind. Sometimes we wake up with this constant feeling of like, I haven't done enough, or I'm not there yet, or I'm already behind today. That's when you just like breathe out, you know. We get to begin again. You get to be more awake the next time. And I think that's what I mean ultimately, to like sum it all up. It's like when I say to live life inside out versus outside in, it's to constantly return back to where you are. Like there's that famous poem, and to know yourself for the first time. I think T.S. Eliot said it, but it's also just true. It's just true. So yeah, in the end, like resilience isn't loud. It's the willingness to keep showing up. And the more and more I get interested in keep showing up, the more and more becomes possible.